Now, if you don't want to be arrested, there are some things that you should never do, like, for instance, committing murders.
Well, depending on how rich you are, you could get away with that.
Like stealing.
Yeah, depending on
sometimes shoplifting.
Demographic factors, you might be able to get away with that.
Yeah, but you must never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say that a police officer is a lesbian lookalike.
I interrupt this segment to bring you an important message about this stuff, the dollar. Not going so well, is it? Inflation is out of control and debt is even more out of control. In fact, the US government is on the verge of spending $1 trillion a year just servicing its debt. It spends about $6.6 trillion and it only collects about $4.6 trillion in revenues. So you can see that this situation is, rapidly taking a turn for the worse. You might want to consider some gold and silver, and that is why that we've done a partnership deal with Goldco, and we've created LotusEatersGold.com. Go and check that out. It's an offer for our American viewers. You can transfer a proportion of your IRA into this, and if you do so, you're going to get some of this lovely stuff, some bonus silver thrown in on top, up to $10,000. Or you can even take delivery of the physical gold to your home address if you prefer. So if you want money that goes clang when you put it down, check out LotusEatersGold.com.
Now, this is where wokeness takes us, because unless it stops, we're led into a situation where, in a sense, laws and policies do not support us, the people in general, anymore, but they support actually some police officers and the minority groups or the groups that are protected by governments that want to play divide and conquer against the people because they don't care. And this leads to disastrous and unjust policies and laws. Now, speaking of just and unjust laws, visit our website. And, for £5 a month, you can support us. It's good to have your support, and it's very good. It's warm.
Are you trying to do a Harry sales?
No,
pitch?
I'm not doing a Harry
regrow
salesman.
The mustache.
I'm not talking down to people. I'm saying that this is very rewarding. And thank you very much.
I'm not talking down to people. I'm just telling them, listen, I know you've got money.
Okay,
so give us some of the money.
Watch our latest symposium with Bo if you're interested into the fall of the Roman Republic and one of the major figures who played a role within that era, Cicero. Watch this marathon of a discussion. And if you want to talk about ancient Rome, Bo is the person to chat with.
3 hours long. Nice.
Yeah, it was like Lord of the Rings 3.
You need to rewatch those films again.
Right. Okay. Now, let's move back to our topic. Yeah. Okay. So something really weird happened. It has gone viral and many people talk about it. It has made a lot of us angry. And let us look at this article from Daily Mail. Mo 7 officers drug autistic girl, 16 years old, kicking and screaming from Leeds home for committing a hate crime after she told female cop, "You look like my lesbian nana." So she was arrested just to telling to that cop that you look like my lesbian nana.
Wait, scroll down just a little bit more. I think we can get an image of the... Now, I don't want to get arrested, but there is a particular look that this police officer has adopted, which means that I can understand the comparison. But I think mainly the most important question is, what does the lesbian nana look like?
That's the most important question.
Probably like this. The autistic girl probably did not mean any insult by it. It was just a comment because autistic people don't understand social situations.
So we have two short videos to show you, and I want your, let's say, criticisms and your feedback on it.
I've seen these, so they're not very nice.
It's good to see them, to watch them. Let's watch.
She's made a comment in her own house. You've got her on camera. She hasn't said anything to you. Don't matter. She never got cameras on. She's getting arrested. She's getting arrested. Why are you doing units coming? Don't worry. She hasn't done anything. She's autistic. I don't care. She's autistic. I know you're arrested. I'm telling you, I've got units coming. She's going to be arrested tonight. Wait till the police officer's coming. I'll explain what happened.
That's why we got her on the first place.
You big fucking bitch, what me if I get police on me? Calm down. She's autistic. Can you stop staring at her, please? She's got autism. Can you just stand there? She's in a cupboard. She can't go anywhere. She can't go anywhere. Stand there, dear. They're going to remove her for what? Because you're bothered. Think she said the word lesbian. Her nana is a lesbian. She's married to a woman. She's not homophobic. Look what you're clenching your fist. Go away from my teenage daughter.
What is up with you? Right.
There is something wrong with you, mate. She didn't aim it at the police officer.
It's not homophobic remarks at my colleague.
It's not a homophobic remark. She said, I think she's a lesbian like Nana.
If you want to bully people, you'll just get one of them badges there. That's what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Where'd it go? Where's this? Does it go to right under there?
She's autistic. She don't like people touching her. She will have a meltdown.
So, before we show the next one, I want to say two things here. So, at some point, the mother says she's autistic, and the reply is, I don't care. That's one thing that the officer replied. Now, I think that generally speaking, police officers should be trained to be calm and not to have sort of feuds with drunken teenagers.
Yes, I agree. I think police officers should be a part of the community.
But let's say that she was really, really, let's say, angry and whatever. It's her job not to be angry in these cases. But there's another issue here. The other policeman who no one focused that on him, he's very calm and he tries to calm things down. And he's saying basically, she made homophobic remarks to my colleague.
Mm-hmm.
And he's calm when he says it. He doesn't say it when he's angry. I think that no one has picked up on this, and it's something to talk about, because it seems that right now the police is more interested in the DI agenda, the diversity, equality, inclusivity, and equity agenda, than actually policing the UK.
Well, this video comes out around the same time that in London we get scenes of mass gangs of ethnically diverse teenagers looting the streets, with nothing being done about it other than bystanders having to film it as it goes by, while the police time and time again show that they're not interested in policing actual chaos in the streets, actual crimes being committed. What they're more interested in is policing people's speech and policing people's thoughts. This is ridiculous. Even if the girl wasn't autistic, even if she wasn't drunk, even if she was fully cognitively aware of everything that she was doing, just calling a police officer saying that you look like a lesbian should not be illegal, should not be something that you are putting this family through this level of distress for. Because they say during the video, they say, well, if you just calm her down and get her to come out here, no, you shouldn't be arresting her in the first place. This is absolutely disgusting and vile. And the fact that the police are being complicit in it, I don't care if the gentleman involved is being calm. He shouldn't be part of this in the first place. The police should be, they won't, but they should be turning around to their commanding officers and saying, we're not enforcing these laws.
Yeah, but isn't also, the push for tolerance and avoiding offence? I thought mental health was a big part of that, not to stigmatise mental
health.
There's
a hierarchy though.
Yeah, so there's a clash there, they're more offended at the homophobic remarks, but, I would find it offensive if they were saying, I don't care that your daughter's autistic, because that genuinely does impact how you speak to people and how you interpret situations. So why has the homophobic remark caused more offence in that instance?
No, it's definitely much more of a factor to me that somebody is not completely cognitively aware of the social circumstances they find themselves in than somebody might consider the remark homophobic.
And actually the police officer is homophobic in this case, because if she got insulted by being called that you look like a lesbian nana, then most probably she thinks that being a lesbian is a bad thing. That's why she took offense.
Yeah. Well, the statement isn't offensive in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's not like she was saying you look a certain way. That it was kind of a neutral statement. You just look like my nan.
I don't even necessarily think that she is interpreting it in a way that is homophobic. I just think this is an exercise of petty tyranny.
Yeah.
That's all this is. The police feel useless to do anything, so let's just terrorize our own constituents.
Let's watch the next short clip.
Can you stop staring at her, please? She's got autism. Can you just stand there? She's in a cupboard. She can't go anywhere. Look at you clenching your fist. Go away from my teenage daughter.
Because we're trying not to do this, aren't we? We've been trying for a long time.
But she hasn't done nothing wrong. That officer out there has assaulted me for no reason. She's got autism. She's autistic, man.
The issue is, if an officer decides to arrest her...
She wasn't arrested. They brought her up.
She's under arrest.
No, but she was going upstairs.
She's just standing at the side while the men do the work. Absolutely disgusting.
Right. Now, everyone has an opinion on this incident. I think the best thing to do is to actually look at what the police said about it. So let's have a look. Yeah, this one. So West Yorkshire Police Assistant Chief Constable Oz Khan said, "We are aware of a video circulating on social media which, as is often the case, only provides a very limited snapshot of the circumstances of the incident. Officers had their body-worn video cameras activated during their wider involvement with this young girl, which provides additional context to their actions. We have received a complaint in relation to this incident, which is currently being assessed by West Yorkshire Professional Standards Directorate. While that ongoing process and the active criminal legislation limit our ability to fully discuss the incident in detail, we feel it is important for people to have some context about the circumstances." So this is where it starts, according to the police.
It's an active criminal investigation. In
From 12 a.m. on Monday, August 7, police received calls from a family member of a 16-year-old girl who was reportedly intoxicated and putting herself at risk in Leeds city centre. So we are at Leeds, just after midnight, and someone calls the police from that person's family. And she is reportedly intoxicated. So it's not even the remark or the insult of a 16-year-old. It's the remark of an allegedly drunk 16-year-old that caused all this fuss. And in Leeds city centre. And Leeds is not exactly the safest place in the UK, especially at night. Now, officers attended at about 1 a.m. and drove the teenager to her home so she could be appropriately looked after. Upon returning her to the address, comments were made which resulted in the girl being arrested on suspicion of a homophobic public order offense. The nature of the comments made was fully captured on body-worn video. When the girl was eventually fit to be interviewed, that interview took place with an appropriate adult. And then it continues. But I want us to look at the formulation. The whole problem is the suspicion of a homophobic public order offense. And one thing, because again, I take issue with it. I take issue with people who want to constantly sugarcoat what they're doing and change language because, oh, we don't want language to hurt our feelings, but we don't have an issue with doing what these officers are doing. They're talking about an interview. Now, when people get arrested, they're interrogated. They're not interviewed.
I mean, I don't care about whatever context they want to dress all of this up in. At the end of the day, you put a family through an incredible amount of distress for no particular reason, for a crime that shouldn't even be a crime in the first place. The public order offense, I've looked into a little bit off the back of researching this, is ridiculous. It's just another way of criminalizing what should be legal speech in the UK. And then the amendments that were made to that add on to sexual orientation and such, make it such so that just saying an inconsequential aside like this young girl made towards a police officer means that you can do this to someone's family. Whilst at the same time, I can understand why the police do this rather than do their actual bloody job. Because you get videos I covered recently from London where the police are shown constantly actually responding to real crimes and doing, I must say, a piss poor job of it in the first place. So they go out and they go and respond to actual crimes that are going on, and there's like 2 Somali teenagers who are tiny, skinny, no muscle on them, no fat on them. They must weigh maybe 5 stone tops. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. And you have like 3 fully grown men failing to even get them down so they can put cuffs on them.
Yeah.
There's a question to be asked here, and I would like to hear your opinion, that if social media were silenced, we would not know of that incident.
Yeah.
We would hear a completely different view of the story. We would hear that the police is tackling homophobic crime and hate crime.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a benefit of social media because, you know, we talk about cancel culture, you know, things getting caught on video and things the anxiety of thinking someone's going to share something about you. But there is a benefit that we have full context and we're able to see it, because I wonder how many times this has happened before and it's not been caught on camera and we've not seen and we've heard a completely different story. So I'm pleased for the family that they at least have some footage of it. Yeah.
Not that it should have happened in the first place.
Yes. So let's look at the next link. Yeah. Homophobic, biphobic, and transphobic hate crime. And let's scroll down a bit here on the incident, because this talks about the Crime Prosecution Service, the incident. It's a sort of guidelines that are given. It says, was there any use of derogatory language that referred to sexual orientation or being transgender? Was it a sustained attack? Did it involve excessive violence? Was cruelty, humiliation, or degradation involved? Was the area in which the incident occurred particularly associated with gay or transgender activity, or was it in response to or undertaken at a time coinciding with a social or political meeting such as Pride? Now, what criteria does the incident we just watched fit?
I mean, I would say that cruelty, humiliation, and degradation was brought upon the family. That's certainly what I would say. Beyond that, there was no derogatory language used. There was no sustained attack. There was no violence, let alone excessive violence. And associated with gay or transgender activity is such a vague and grey term that it doesn't mean anything. What matters at the end of the day is who is interpreting these laws, who is administering these laws. And when you have things like this, it just means that even if this young girl is not taken to the full extent of the law and prosecuted under it, the very fact that her and her family had to go through what they did serves as a warning to the rest of the population of England. If you even dare do anything that the police could interpret as being against these stupid public order laws that shouldn't be in place in the first place, then we'll put this through you. We'll put you through this.
Well, she's going to, the young girl involved is going to have this follow her whole life. It's going to be brought up throughout her life. There's, that's the negative of it, is there is a video of it and she's in it. So, she's never going to get away from this now.
So the main thing to be asking is, where did this happen exactly? Because we just watched 7 police officers arresting a drunken teenager, 16-year-old, who just told to one officer, you look like my lesbian nana. Now, it happened in West Yorkshire. Now, I know I love Yorkshire because I lived there since 2016. I live in North Yorkshire, but this happened in West Yorkshire. And it's interesting to introduce some perspective here, because West Yorkshire isn't exactly the safest county of the UK. Now let's hear. So, West Yorkshire violent crime statistics. Annual crime rate in West Yorkshire County is 62.8 crimes per annum per 1,000 workday people as of June 2023. As you will see, this is the violent crime. Compared to the national crime rate, West Yorkshire's crime rate is at 172%. Violent crime makes up 41.5% of all crimes reported in the county. The total number of violent crime is 141,000, and this number has increased by 2.2% when compared year over year in the period of July 2022 to June 2023. Now, this is West Yorkshire, and if we scroll down, we will see here West Yorkshire violent crime rate rank. Number 1, highest crime rate out of 54 counties. Violent crime rate in that region where this happened, where 7 police officers were deployed for that very reason, is basically the worst county in the UK. Perhaps there are better ways of distributing duties and what police officers should do.
I will suggest this. I just looked into it, and West Yorkshire is where you have locations like Savile Town located. Savile Town is quite notoriously a borough of a town in West Yorkshire where there is no English people living there anymore. You just have people of foreign immigrant descent who live there. And we know from very many incidents that have happened all over the UK over the past 20, 30 years that the police often have trouble actually solving or even looking into or responding to crimes that come from certain backgrounds because of the fact that they don't want to be accused of being racist. And so for them, depending on which parts of the community are committing these violent crimes, it's going to be a lot easier for them to be able to do their job if they just, once again, administer the petty tyranny of people who were a West Yorkshire native family by the looks of it, than actually solve the problems that are creating these crimes.
In this graphs here, we see that there's a tendency for violent crime to rise, especially in the last 10 years. If you see here, around 2013, then it spikes. And if you also see here, West Yorkshire violent crime rate, it has a steady increase. The whole of UK has, but the increase in West Yorkshire is bigger. So question
Probably
is,
correlates with something else as well. But
what happened in the last 10 years? That's a question to be asked.
well, if you look into just national figures alone, between about 1995 and 2010, the rates of violent crime across the country, I think, tripled.
Really?
Yes.
So
Coincides with something else.
And here is where I think we should focus, because there seems to be something wrong with police. And I think that this is basically the face of wokeness. And wokeness is very corrosive. It destroys societies. And let's see how that the problem with wokeness, especially in the police, can be summarized in the following manner. Their job is to fight crime, but they seem to be untrained, unqualified to fight actual crime. So they have to actually invent a new categories of crime, and they have to portray themselves as, let's say, tackling that crime. Meanwhile, while they're virtue signaling and they're telling how much they are fighting crime, actual crime, violent crime is on the rise. Now, and let's just see here to support this. There was an article by the Telegraph, and thanks to John for pointing this to my attention. It says, in 2021, March 16, police officers are victims in almost half of all hate crime prosecutions. So, police officers are victims in up to half of all hate crime prosecutions, statistics show, as body-worn cameras have made it easier to bring abusers to justice. For North Yorkshire Police, 53% of all prosecuted hate crimes in 2019-2020 involved a victim who was a police employee or officer, compared with less than a fifth in 20. So, question, if, let's say, someone wants to give the benefit of the doubt, but sees this, how can I, let's say that, okay, I'm wrong in thinking that actually police, the woke policing, the police that is interested into just virtue signaling is more interested into just saying that we are tackling imaginary crimes as opposed to actually fighting crime?
It is absolutely ridiculous. And for that figure that I mentioned a moment ago, I got it up on my computer here. It's from a book called License to Kill by David Fraser, subtitle Britain's Surrender to Violence. There's a figure in here, violence against the person crimes per 100,000 population in England between 1950 and 2015. And from 1995, it was about 400. By 2010, it had jumped up to about 1,200. So tripled.
I want to ask you something about empowerment here, because for so many years, we listen to the narrative that tells us that, for instance, if you have people from some minority groups, or I don't know if they are even minority, but they are segregated in such a manner that they say that you are a protected group.
Yeah.
So you have, let's say, people from there who are saying that we need jobs, we need to be respected, we need to be empowered. How empowered is a person who cannot handle the insult of a drunken 16-year-old autistic child?
Yeah. Well, now the narrative of empowerment is to try and fight any kind of transgression against you, any kind of minor offense. It's now empowering to fight back and call it out. But, really, what does that do to your actual personal resilience? I think it's probably the most disempowering thing, because you are going to come across people who are going to say things that offend you. And to live a life in constant fear of that and constantly trying to battle that is the opposite of empowerment.
And wouldn't you say that wokeness locks people?
Yeah.
into that mentality, into that victimhood
Well,
mentality.
they're kind of searching for it because they're being told it's out there, and men think of you this way, and some white people think of you this way. And once you've been told that, you will search for it, and you will find it, because so many normal interactions could be interpreted offensively. It just depends on the worldview you have.
I mean, as I see it, that is the empowerment that they're talking about. The empowerment is the fact that you have the laws and those who administer the laws on your side. I imagine it must be very empowering on a certain level to know that any minor infraction against you could be taken to the legal ends that you want it to, whether or not. Because at the end of the day, these people have power on their side. They have the halls of power. They have Parliament on their side, because in Parliament, whenever you hear people talking about it, it's never how can we roll this back? It's how can we mitigate this and just make it more fair for all, which is not actually a solution, because inevitably it ends up with things just keeping on shifting leftwards and leftwards and leftwards in the social realms, where more and more legal protections are brought upon even more minute and distinct classes so that they can then take it out on normal people.
But there's a question here with this narrative of empowerment, and whether who is doing the empowerment? It's the state that does the empowerment.
Yeah. Individually, is it empowering?
Yes.
To view the world like that, then no.
And the problem, though, is, and I want to find out whether this is something that is told to everyone, also women, in all sorts of issues, whether wokeness involves, I think it does, but whether it involves such ideologies that create a mind that views everything as a threat.
Yes.
Now, when this happens, that's dangerous, because they interpret everything as a threat, and they feel that they're justified in using violence against everything, and they interpret everything as a threat.
I think a lot of it is an avoidance of discomfort, of kind of any kind of personal psychological discomfort you feel. We're now told it's empowering to try and overcome that and call that out. But yeah, like I said, so many things in your life will be uncomfortable, and often, as we were talking about with marriage, sometimes the most meaningful things are full of discomfort. And I think the kind of woke narrative from all angles, the social justice angle, but also the kind of therapeutic culture, it's all telling young people avoid discomfort at all costs, which inevitably makes life more uncomfortable and is disempowering.
And it is a message that should be taught to the police. It's not sexist to tell to police officers or who are trained that you need to control your temper. You are representing society. You're representing law and law enforcement. You're not there representing your feelings. Your feelings are secondary.
Yeah, well, surely that's the profession where emotions should be the least involved within it. But, the woke kind of narrative is very much your emotions are paramount. But to see that in policing is just dangerous.
So I think that this is a very anger-inducing incident, and you should show this to everyone, because showing actually where wokeness leads. It doesn't lead to fighting crime. It actually leads to not paying attention to actual crime, and gives an incentive for, let's say, woke bureaucrats to say, well, we're inventing a new category of crime. Meanwhile, actual crime is on the rise, but we're not going to do anything about it because we cannot. They think that they cannot, but actually they can. And I talked about this on my previous segment on shoplifting. Just want to say something quick about it. In Greater Manchester, we have a new constable who made some changes. Where is it? Okay, I'll just say it here. Okay, so what was happening before? Because I want to show a solution that things can be done. Things are not doomed here. Until recently, the police had the duty of responding to several mental health crises, but there was no sufficient time for shoplifting, or at least that was, and tackling minor crimes. That was what we were told. And in Greater Manchester, they went to a back to basics approach, which freed that from police duty, and said, no, responding to mental health crisis is something that the health services have to do. And actually, they went back to basics. And as it says, in Greater Manchester, Steve Watson, the chief constable, pulled the force out of special measures in record time with a back to basics approach. He announced in May 2021 that his officers would investigate all crimes and follow up every reasonable line of inquiry. The force has since reported a 38% increase in charges for burglary, a 22% increase for robbery, and a 53% increase for vehicle theft. So things can be done. It's a matter of political will.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium contents on the site, such as the Symposium series, this episode on Aristotle's Nickelodeon ethics, I don't know. And if you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.